So last time we were looking at the HardHat for Ethereum development, and we kind of installed this already via npm. We already went over it. Has some great plugins, and it's nice, pretty nice documentation, to be honest. Main thing is it gives us like a development blockchain to work with on our local environment, which is really nice. And it runs on the Node platform. So I already went and installed this project already. And some dependencies it had was Waffle and Chai, which is for some testing to test our smart contract. And I'll kick it off again because you need to use npx. So there's some commands already that it'll have. npm HardHat accounts to grab all the accounts, compile your contracts, test them, and if you want to kick off some Ethereum nodes to test with, you can do that. It gives you nice nodes that you can deploy your smart contracts to. Kick this off. It also gives us some other information as well. Let's see here. So this is giving us, you can get some things that are built in. Get accounts, get transaction count, get block by number, get gas price, send a transaction. So give us some information. So here I kicked off HardHat node. It started a HTTP and WebSocket server on localhost 8545. If I click this, does it do anything? Let's check. Let's take a click and open in a browser. It doesn't really give us anything. That's fine at this point. But we have all these nodes to work with their private keys. And they have a balance of 10,000 Ethereum. Wouldn't it be nice? I'm that wouldn't it be nice guy to have that. My balance in my what was it again? It was like 0.00075 Ethereum. So anyhow, so I have these nodes to work with. So what can I do? So I launched this HardHat on this node instance. So what I can do is I can go and open another node instance because this is running now. I could either kick it off. I could either kick off something in another, like open another terminal and kick off something else. But I'm going to launch just another another Visual Studio Code, and I have a couple things to look at here. I was looking at something else. Hold on. Let's just close all this out. And sorry. Close all these guys out, and let's take a look at the first example was how to get a bunch of balances using Web3. So Web3.js is a Web3.js is a JavaScript package. Where is it here? I was looking at it. Web3.js npm. npm, is this the same one I use? I'm not sure. Is this the same one? If I look at my packages, we'll take a look at it. So I'll go to package.json. I grabbed dependencies Web3. I tried to use Web3 ETH, but that didn't work for me too well. So I use Web3, not Web3.js, Web3. And this is the Ethereum JavaScript API running on the node level. I tried to put it into the browser, but for some reason it didn't work for me the way it said it would with the window having. It is supposed to attach an Ethereum like object to it, but it didn't work for me. I'll have to circle back to that. But anyhow, you can download this package. So it'll give you the main package from Web3.js. I guess this is their branch, their GitHub. Documentation on it is here. Yes, there we go. So it has a nice little API for interacting with WebSockets, like we said, remote Ethernet nodes using any of these protocols. And I'll walk you through, how to use it. And again, another documentation just to kind of like explore different things you could do with it. So I went ahead and I installed that. And let's see here. So I have HardHat running here with my nodes. And then if I run the first one, which is, let's see, 1.0-get account balances, it should chug for a bit. It's a bit slow, but it does go through and it goes and grabs all those nodes, and it grabs what did it do? So it grabbed all the accounts. I must have been did a bunch of different things. So I probably went and fetched all the accounts first, and then went and got all the accounts and all their balances, and that balance looks huge for all those nodes that are running on this shell over here, right? So I'm pretty much, if I add a new node or block to the chain, I'm sure it'll show up here, and like I can build out a block, I can build out my chain as much as I want and do a bunch of things with it. How did I do this? So what I had to do was a couple things here. At the bottom, I invoke get accounts. So I required Web3, which is that package. I didn't name my objects too well. It should probably be like web object, but you know, anyhow, I mean, it might make sense to call it web object just for argument's sake. So what I did is, the main thing is you got to make sure if it's running on localhost 8085, you got to make sure you're connecting to it, so you get the wrapper around that call, so it knows that it's looking for this chain, or it knows that it's looking for. And actually, you see what's cool about it is I actually made those calls. I called into the API accounts and get balance for 20 nodes, and it registered on the back end. This is kind of like our back end, that I made those calls. So it's telling us what calls are coming in, which is pretty nice. And then in my accounts, I use web object.eth.get accounts, and that's built in, right? So that would be if we went down here to get accounts here, I guess. And it would show you part of the markup here is probably a method for get accounts, right? So it's going to go ahead and grab all the accounts on that channel, web eth, and then I forget exactly where that get accounts was. Anyhow, so it's in the markup there. So that went ahead. It grabbed all the accounts, and then I used the promise here, which we didn't talk about yet, but the dot then. So when it's going to wait, when this returns, it's going to take all the accounts and pass them through a custom function I have called handle accounts. It's just going to quickly just output the account numbers, all of them. That would be all this dump I did here. No point. It's just for debugging purposes. And then for each one, I iterate over all of them, and I get the balance for each one. And so it'll iterate through each one with the address, the account, the address. And then it'll use this other method, get balance. And again, it has a thenable, which means the promise. So go ahead and get the balance for that node. When it returns, console log it out, this account, that balance. And that's how I got all these guys here. All right. And the next one I did, just quickly, I did get transaction. I forget exactly what I did for this one. I didn't do much, it didn't look like, but so what did I do here? I did the same setup. I require that package web3, put it on that local host. And what did I do? I grabbed all the accounts, and I grabbed just the first account. So I just grabbed the first account, outputted it, and then I tried to grab. I tried to get a transaction count. So that needs to be a transaction count, and get the latest transaction, and then grab its value. So I guess it didn't really register any. It didn't have a nonce value. So, but anyhow, that's, you can get how many transactions. Maybe I didn't make a transaction actually, so that's probably right. I only queried the accounts. I didn't actually send a transaction yet on it. Maybe if I run the next one and run this, I might actually have a transaction on there. All right, so just using this API a little bit more. And did I kick off recording? Yes, I did. All right, so then this one is sending a transaction. So it says account number 1, 0, and account number 1, sorry. So source and destination, transaction sent successful. So on the Ethereum node, I sent some more. I sent 5,000 Ethereum. You can see a breakdown here: the hash, the block number, the gas used, and the status, and the gas price. Let's see if I run it, if it actually did register though. So it did. Okay, so then I'm surprised. I don't know why I'm surprised. I guess I didn't see it running. So you can see now I went and I called get transaction again. On that first one, it says I have one transaction. If I go and send the same transaction to this guy again, and I run it again, I should have 2. All right, I have 2. If I go back to my other HardHat running here, you can see all of the different calls I've made. So you can see I send this transaction, it actually registered it. It will give you a bunch of other ones I didn't call. So it'll actually give you a transaction receipt, transaction count by block number, and then gas price. So these are the internal methods it called that you could probably call as well. And then this was the second transaction, and then it showed that I got the transaction count at the end. All right, that's pretty cool. How do we do that? So then again, using this library here for transactions in here, somewhere in here, there's some markup for, I can't exactly remember what it is, to be honest, but you got to look for transaction. There's transaction receipt. How to use that? There's get transaction. I'm probably looking for send transaction. Somewhere in the markup, you'd have to look through it. How did I do it though? Let's take a look at it. So I took, again, the same setup with the Web3. I was trying to do something else with a logger. Forget about that. Forget about that one. We'll put a breakpoint in, why not? And we'll actually run this one more time with the debugger on. And we'll run Chrome. And we invoked it. We're using this async keyword, which we didn't go over, which makes it asynchronous, so we can go ahead and asynchronously go and fetch the account number and then await it, so we can actually pause on it, right? So we can actually pause on this guy again. So we have two accounts. We do some little check to make sure we have accounts. Once we have an account, so the get accounts is exactly like the other call. Go grab all the accounts and then probably pull out these positions in that array. We have two accounts, a source and destination. Source and destination, then you set up webauth eth.send transaction from to in the value. And then we go ahead and there's a promise there. So it's gonna, so promise is two paths. Either it's gonna succeed and it's going to come through here, this thenable, or it's going to fail and it's going to go through this catch. If you notice, the execution now has gone outside of the scope, so we're asynchronously off the thread. Now this send transaction is going to go and do its thing, and when it comes back, it's going to either fulfill one of these paths, right? So I clicked through it, and then what happened there? It actually did throw an exception. For some reason, it threw some kind of exception, invalid response. So there was a problem on the other end. Either we took too long, maybe through the debugger, and it did actually capture this. It went, it actually throw an error. But let's run this guy without the debugger and see again if it worked without it, which it should. Maybe the pausing on it, we'll run 3. So it runs no problem. You know, maybe there's a bit of a timeout when I was running and didn't like that. And then we get back another transaction here. And if we call, of course, the other one will get how many were run, which now the first account has 3 transactions on it. I tried to do another one for subscribe, but I didn't get that one working. We'll have to see if we can. Yeah, that's a story to be continued another day. Anyhow, that's using the WebAuth and using HardHat. I'll stop this recording.